Well, 2020 has been quite the year, hasn't it? And with Christmas around the corner, I'm mindful that this year things haven't gone as planned. And for many people, Christmas probably isn't going to go as per usual. So in this episode, we're going to look at what to do when things don't go as planned. In fact, we're going to look at finding the joy when things don't go as planned, especially this Christmas. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. Hit it, Kim.
Welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast. You're in the right place if you're a growth-seeking being who acknowledges the challenges and delights of your humanity on the path to an ever more conscious life. If you want to feel inspired to love and accept yourself, to feel free to be and express you in all your brilliance, if you want to truly value yourself and others and feel energized and alive both at home and in the world, then sit back and take a breath as you explore and grow the brilliance of your beautiful human self with your host, the father of non-personal awareness and creator of the MPA process, Joel Young.
Hello, and welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast with me, Joel Young. We are at episode number 64, and we are deep into the midst of December 2020. We're almost there, folks. It has been quite a year, as I said, and it certainly brought a lot of stuff up for a lot of different people. I've certainly done some episodes that when we went into early lockdown that talked about staying motivated and how to deal with it. And I don't think any of us thought that it would drag on this long and still be disrupting our lives in lots of different ways. So we're going to get into how you can come out smiling at the end of it. And before we do that, of course, if you're brand new here, it's so wonderful that you found us, and you found us in a Christmassy month, or December that is, and I'm really delighted you're here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you get notified when each episode comes out. And if you're back for more, welcome back. I love you. You're wonderful. I love my regular listeners. How fantastic is that? And thank you for those of you who give me feedback. You can feedback to me. You can let me know on social media or get in touch. And feedback includes, my God, Joel, you're amazing. Or, can you try this? Or maybe I'd love you to cover this topic. And various other forms of having a conversation. I'm open to conversations about this podcast. You can do that via social media at Joel Young NPA for the most part. Places like Instagram and Twitter and those lovely things. And then on YouTube, if you're a YouTuber, I do post these podcasts as video on YouTube on my channel, the Be a Brilliant Human channel on YouTube, which you can find at youtube.com/Joel Young. And of course, good old Facebook, you can find me there. The page for NPA is www.facebook.com/NPA Rocks. That's NPA November Papa Alpha. And speaking of NPA, you probably heard in the introduction, who is he's the father of NPA? What does that mean if you're brand new? Well, NPA stands for non-personal awareness, and I came up with a process back in 2007, which is a simple way to stop taking things personally and so much more. More, you say? That's right. What we discovered is it's actually an incredibly powerful little tool you can use. If you're a therapist or a coach, you can add it into your toolbox. And if you've done none of that, it's so simple you can use it yourself. And it's like it applies Teflon to your soul, to your life. And if you're thinking, what's Teflon? Then think of a frying pan. Remember those frying pans that had no non-stick, and you'd cook a lovely meal in it, and then, oh my God, stuff would stick to it like you wouldn't believe. And these days you have nice modern Teflon ones, so you can fry an egg and just tip it out without so much as a bye or leave. Well, if you could have that in your life where the sticky stuff of life could no longer stick to you, then make sure you go and download the MPA process sheet absolutely free from the website. Websites, speaking of that, the main MPA website is joelyoungnpa.com, and the website for this podcast is www.beabrillianthuman.com, and you can find the show notes for today at www.beabrillianthuman.com/64. In fact, all of the 63 previous episodes you can find if you put a different number, less than 64, or more if you're listening later, and just put the number after that URL, you will get the notes of whatever show you are listening to. All right, then, let's talk about our COVID Christmas. There's things to discuss, my friend. So here we are approaching Christmas in 2020, and as I said, it has been quite a year. Just to give you a bit of a sneak peek, in a couple of weeks before New Year, I'm going to be doing a Reflections on 2020 episode and looking at that. So make sure you tune in just before New Year to have some reflections from my good self of the year. I'm also going to cover some of my favourite episodes of 2020 in that episode in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, let's focus on what's coming. It's the festive season, the holiday season, Christmas, if you're Christian, or even if you're not really Christian, you just were raised Christian and you kind of do the Christmas thing, then it's kind of Christmas, but lots of people around the world celebrate it in different ways, even if they don't align with the whole Christianity thing. But in this holiday season, there's normally time off and a chance to get together. Normally it's big gatherings in family, and this year with many countries still in lockdown fully or some form of lockdown, in spite of all those, promises of the vaccination. I'm not going to go there. Seriously. But even so, it looks like the holiday season, Christmas, is going to be affected by many places. Here in the UK, we just had a kind of November, December full lockdown again. Not quite as severe as it was first time round. But now we're on a tier system, which means there's various levels of lockdown depending on the what's going on in the different areas of the country. But what it means is that there's limitations on the usual things that we might do at Christmas. You can't have large family gatherings. For example, every year historically, we have a huge family gathering around Christmas time, usually at my dad's place, and all the extended family come along, and it's our chance really once a year to get to see those people that you don't normally see. Of course, this year there's no chance of that. It's limited to I think 6 people and 3 households and all those kind of things, and and that's a tricky situation. It doesn't give our family that opportunity this year. So for many of us, there are different versions of that where, it's not the usual holiday season. And, even on a basic level, it's like one of the Western world rituals of Christmas is the Christmas shopping. And again, there are certain places that have considerable restrictions, not to mention the number of independents that have been either gone out of business or been hit by the pandemic this year. So there's a lot of things that really, haven't gone as planned. And so with that, I've heard from many people it can make you very glum. It's one of those things. It depends on the situation. I mean, for me, generally my life is, most of my friends are round the world, so my social life is online for the most part. So it's not necessarily going to affect someone like me. Plus, I work online, so that my life in many ways hasn't been as affected as many who have. For others, it's a big deal, and certainly I know certain people who are older people who felt the real difficulty of the isolation that has been imposed as a result of this pandemic. So it's easy to get very glum, but I'm hoping today that I can offer you some mindsets, if you like, that will help. If you're in that situation where you're a bit peeved about the situation at Christmas, or, even if you're on the surface okay, but underneath there's some stuff going on just because it's just not the Christmas you're expecting, it's not the holiday season you wanted, or you're missing people, or whatever the flavour of the issue is for you. Today I'm going to offer some mindsets that hopefully will help you to feel a little bit brighter. So when I was doing the original lockdown episodes back in, it must be March, April time, one of the points I made is that a lot of the stuff that I shared there, while they were inclined topically because we were just experiencing lockdown for the first time, these things that I offered would apply anytime. And it's the same here. We're looking at, the dashed expectations of what Christmas, in quotes, should be, or when things don't go as planned. It's not just pandemics that mean that things don't go as planned. So you can take these suggestions, these mindsets on board as really a life motto or a way of being in life, because life is full of the unplanned. Well, the first one I think to get clear on is you've got to set some kind of intention about what you want. What do you want to experience? Do you want to have fun? Do you want to enjoy things? And sometimes I think we forget that little step of really reminding ourselves that, it's like we get into this unconscious alignment with an idea that I want to be miserable about this. If someone dares to say, don't you want to be happy? Well, of course I want to be happy, but I'm going to act as if I want to be miserable and just focus on everything that's going wrong. So I think that's the first thing to say about this is just to get really clear. Do you want to have a wonderful holiday season? And then I guess it's a question of, so what are you willing to do in terms of your own mental gymnastics, if necessary, in order to meet your own desire, to give yourself that permission to have that fun, that joy, or whatever it is that you want to experience, regardless of the mechanisms or certain situations that are going on. So really the first thing is it's a matter of attitude, really. Now, if you were with me way back from the beginning, back in episode 7, which was talking about the sort of the potential dangers of the negativity label, when you slap the label negative onto usually other people, you're going to experience that label and it will have an impact on you. And I talked about attitude in that episode, and I referenced one of my favorite movies, which is Papillon, which is an old film. And there was a remake. I haven't seen it, and it's just not the same, I'm sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, if the remake was brilliant and you've seen it. But this original one was back in the days of Steve McQueen. And it's about a guy who gets arrested for some misdemeanor and gets sent to various penitentiaries, but is a serial escape artist. And eventually he ends up on this island in isolation, and they throw him some slop to eat, and he takes one mouthful and sort of winces at it. But what I love about this scene is you watch him or see him making an instant internal attitude adjustment, which is undoubtedly part of why he didn't rot and die in that place. You could see him. There was no words in that scene. One of the reasons I love it. You just literally see him adjust himself as if he's saying to himself, no. He recognizes, if I have the attitude that this food sucks, they should give me better food, blah, 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 then it's going to just drain my energy. So you see him reassert his own sense of attitude and go as if this is, okay, I'm going to eat this like it's the best meal ever. And so from that, then he manages to actually eat rather than being disgusted by the food. And eventually, spoiler alert, there's a happy ending and he gets off the island. So sorry if you haven't seen it and you're thinking, I wonder what happens. But come on, it's Hollywood. There we go. So, a good thing to sort of be mindful of, as well as getting clear on if you want to have joy, even though things aren't as you would perhaps like them to be, then really sort of pulling yourself up on your attitude. And I'm not doing it like, you've got a stinky attitude, pull your socks up kind of thing. But no, it's a genuine act of self-care to shift your attitude in a way which means that you give yourself the best chance of the experiences that you say you want. And often with attitude comes a story. So I want to talk a bit about the story that we tell ourselves. In the same way that I said, like with the negativity label, if you slap a label of negativity on something, you will experience that label. A slightly sort of wider version of that is the story that we tell ourselves. If you're telling yourself that things should be different than they are, then that is going to have a direct impact on your experience. Whoever tells a more beautiful story to themselves is going to have a more beautiful experience. Now, I know you practical people amongst us say, yes, but if things get real and blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, I know there's a balance in it, but we're talking first world problems here, really, aren't we? So in that level of things, it really does come down to the story that you tell yourself. And if you want to give me the whole, well, you've got to be accurate and factful and true and all the rest of it. Again, there's a place for that. But ultimately, I have a thing that I tend to subscribe to, or have, I live by this, is that when it comes to, the story that is the actual fact, the actual truth, nobody really knows what that is. Even the scientists who say, I've got proven facts and figures and research and verified by 1,000 other scientists that this is fact. And then 20 years later, they go, oh, well, yes, we've discovered it's not true now. So the new fact is, and it's a fact because we say it so, is this. Because we don't have all the answers right. So in the world where you don't really have the ultimate, factual truth, you have a choice about the stories you tell. You can tell a crap story, which usually will give you a crap experience, or you can tell a good story. So I always say, nobody really knows. So if you're going to have a story, have a good one. And by good one, I mean one that works for you, one that gives you what you need, whether it be it courage, hope, be it, joy, be it happiness, be it motivation, whatever it is. Again, that comes back to your original intention of what do you really want. But again, so I guess this one is be mindful of the story that you're telling yourself about whatever the circumstances are that may at this point be making you a little bit glum around this holiday season. And that sort of brings us to, what they should be, and, how it's not normal and things aren't as they're supposed to be. That comes down to expectations. So in a way, I'm going to say something that may sound a bit harsh, which is expectations is the opposite of presence. So for all you hardcore spiritual seekers who want to be present in every single moment, 100% of the time, well, that's fantastic, and it's a great aspiration, and, that's all very well. But expectations are, while the opposite of presence, are really part of our human experience. In fact, without some level of expectation, it'd be very difficult to function in the world. You have an expectation that when you step off the curb, there's going to be a solid ground underneath you, and for the most part, that's true. So you don't have to think about it and check every step that you do. So there's a sort of positive side to expectations, as with most things, there's a positive and negative. But there are again sort of the expectations which are not so helpful. So in a way, what I'm saying here is that if you have an expectation and you're holding on to it, and there's a clear indication that that things aren't going to be as such, by holding on to that expectation, that can be a source of internal frustration. It can build anger. You can set up resistance and all those kind of things. So going back to the stepping off the curb analogy, if you step off the curb and there's a pothole there, so you don't quite meet the road where you expected to, and maybe you even fall over, to get back up and then still try and put your foot in that hole, and just complaining with that your expectation isn't being met, and getting tied up, constantly stepping off, trying to, waiting for that expectation to happen, or waiting on the curb and never going across the road because you're waiting for that expectation that there's a solid road under your foot to be there. It sounds ridiculous, but that is kind of what we do when we have these expectations that aren't met, and then we just freeze our lives because of them, or we stay in a internal pain loop because of it. So here's a way to think about it when things don't go as expected, which is going to be certainly true for many of us this Christmas. So firstly, let me float the idea that different doesn't have to be bad. In a way, it not going as expected or as usual just means it's going to be different. I mean, my birthday happened just after we went into lockdown, and I had plans. Karen was going to come up. She was going to stay up here. We were going to have a fine time, wander around the countryside, with our cameras as we love to do. And none of that was possible in the first lockdown. So my birthday was very different, and we made a point of making it different. In fact, I think I may have mentioned this in one of those podcasts around lockdown, but rather brilliantly, we did a Skype present unwrapping because Karen lives down sort of about 4.5 hours away from me, and she'd wrapped my presents in rather fine lingerie. which made me hoot and was brilliant, and it just made the experience a whole different experience. I've never had that happen before, so it made the best of what was, not an ideal situation. Plus, the other thing that happened on that day is all of my family got together on Skype and said, let's have a Skype meeting. Not Skype, why am I saying Skype? That's so pre-COVID. Zoom! We had a Zoom meeting, I think it was. And my mum, my dad, and they've separated like 20 odd years ago, and my sisters all came onto a call. So, and that wouldn't have happened, on my usual birthday. I probably wouldn't have seen my family on the day. Again, I live miles away from them, but so it came together. And that actually became like the standard. So all the birthdays this year that have been in lockdown, in fact, even ones that haven't, we've now getting together on Zoom as a family to celebrate whoever's birthday is, just for like 10, 20 minutes or so, saying happy birthday and all that stuff. And in a way, that's part of what is possible. When you don't see different as bad, you open your mind to becoming the explorer. And again, having a discovery mindset, an explorer mindset, is one of those, 5 foundations of being a brilliant human in my mind. And again, there's an episode about that, which I ought to link to, I suppose, in the show notes. But having that explorers, things are going to be different. So in an explorer's mindset, you're looking for, wow, how can we have a difference that meets my intentions, be it joy, be it fun, whatever it is that you, that is the thing that you want to experience. So to kind of sum that up, it's like, first of all, get an intention of what it is that you really want out of this. And that mostly is going to be a check yourself moment. Do you want to be a grumbler or do you want to be happy? That's the first sort of foundation of it. Then check your attitude. What's your attitude like? If you come in with a negative attitude or an attitude which is going to be unhealthy for you, you're going to have unhealthy results. So just adjust it. Always, it's good to stay congruent, of course. Don't be cloud cuckoo. There's always a level of sort of exploring what it is within the range of unreality, if you like, or possibility thinking that is within range of what feels congruent and true for you, reachable, if you like. But check your attitude, and then have a look at what the stories that you're telling yourself. And again, if the stories you're telling yourself are making you miserable and you say you want to be happy, then have a look and tell a different story. Any story is valid because we don't know what's true. Sort of have a play, have a look around and find a story that feels like it supports your intentions. And then finally, put expectations in the category of, where if they're not useful, then put them in the category of not useful, and have a look at switching to, okay, it's not as expected, so what am I going to do? I'm going to have a discovery mindset. I'm going to become an explorer. Different doesn't have to be bad. How can I explore the possibilities that I can make this a unique and different and memorable and joyful experience this Christmas, even though perhaps I'm not having the get-together that I was hoping for. All right, so we're not quite finished yet. I want to say a little bit more about MPA and how you can use MPA to support you. So have a quick look at that before we wrap up this episode. As I said at the top of the program, or somewhere near the top of the program, if you haven't already downloaded the MPA worksheet, then go ahead and do that. You can get it at www.joelyoungmpa.com. Also, if you happen to be on the Be a Brilliant Human website, you'll find it. It's on every single page. It will say on the side somewhere, the side of the blog, because it's like a blog post on the show notes, it'll say, get the MPA process for free. Click that and download it. Now, when you download it, there'll be an offer made to you to get the training. And if you're wondering what that's about, then the MPA basic training really is that core training. It's how you install that Teflon into your soul and work with yourself. If you're a therapist or a coach or something and want to go deeper with it and use it with your clients, then coming out very early in the new year is the advanced training, which will go very much more in depth into how to use it when you're working one-to-one with other people. And then I'm really excited about 2021 because I'll be launching the practitioners training sort of in the around April time for those people who really want to go to the next level and kind of be in the top 1 to 4%, I'd say, of therapists around the world, because MPA for coaches and therapists and change makers who use it. One of the things that I talk about with MPA is it's a way of having no resistance. I mean, as a therapist, if you're not, you probably won't want to talk about, but trust me, therapists have the experience of resistant clients, and it can be hard work. Now, I don't experience resistant clients. Oh my God, how can you say that, Joel? I don't. Why? Because from years of using MPA, the underlying philosophies of it give you an approach where you never have to experience that. Sounds like magic, but I'll be really going in depth into that. I'll covering it some in the advanced training, but in the practitioners, which is the master training level, where you really get to be certified by me and MPA. So if you're, again, a coach or therapist, then look out for that. Anyway, I've digressed. Just go download the sheet, and that's all you need for this next bit. Which is, how can I use MPA to support myself in having, a happy COVID Christmas? Well, on the MPA sheet, you'll find that there's two questions with MPA. One is, what are you experiencing that you would like to allow to pass? And that's a standing question that allows you to focus on letting go of the yucky stuff in your life. And the other one is, what are you not experiencing that you would like to allow to come? Which allows you to open the doors to experience the things that you'd like to experience that you're not currently experiencing. Well, I had a thought, and it's how can you apply that to this Christmas? Well, those questions really are just the beginning to ask for what in MPA we call a spew, which is like just an unconscious expression, whether you do it into your journal or with somebody else, from which you get the keywords or the cookie cutters, as we call them in MPA, that you go into that MPA process. This will make sense when you read the sheet, if you haven't done that already. But make a note of this sentence. This is a good one, how you can use the Q2 question, what am I not experiencing I'd like that to come? But let's focus it on Christmas. And it's this, you can ask yourself, what would I like to experience this Christmas? It's a simple question. What would I like to experience this Christmas? Or if you're asking somebody else and you're doing it in pairs, you can ask them, what would you like to experience this Christmas? And just listen to what they say, and then follow the instructions of how to find what are the keywords or phrases, because it's a special technique to really sort of to notice and to allow yourself to find the phrases and keywords that then go into the MPA process. And you can do that. So if you use it that way, you can really go, okay, this Christmas I could use some MPA support. And then find those cookie cutters, those keywords, those phrases that will really connect you to what you would like to experience this Christmas. And then you go through the MPA process. It's really, really simple. Again, on that free sheet at www.joelyoungmpa.com, you'll find it, or the beabrillianthuman.com website. Download that. Maybe re-listen to this if this made no sense to you and you haven't downloaded it yet. This will make sense. And just try it. Have some fun. It's my gift to you this Christmas. And let me know what it is as we wrap this episode up. And I'd love to hear from you. What did you put on that sheet? What would you like to experience this Christmas? Reach out. Let me know. You can do it, as I said, through social media, generally at Joel Young MPA on things like Twitter and Instagram. Come find me on Facebook every week when I put a podcast out on Facebook. There's always a post on the MPA Rocks page, and you can comment back there. It's a great place. If also you're on the website, you can send me a message. You can do that on, again, Messenger or whatever. Leave me a voice message. But there's a way to directly leave me a voice message on the website. Just need to click that button. Just leave me a message, and you can record it directly and say hello. Of course, you can also message me on Instagram via voicemail or just private message if you don't want to do it on a public comment. And the final way, of course, is good old-fashioned email. joel@nonpersonalawareness.com if you want to get hold of me. Just send me an email. I reply to my emails. If I miss one over the Christmas period, forgive me, I'm on holiday, but I will get to it as soon as possible. But if you get it in this week, I will respond back to you. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about in 2021. What we'd like to see from the show in 2021. Let's have that conversation. And otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic week. Have a little look at your stories, your attitudes, and become the explorer as we go into that that Christmas period. I'm staying Christmassy next week. We're going to be looking at your inner Christmas tree next week. I'm looking forward to that episode. And of course, as I said before, in a couple of weeks' time, as we get towards New Year, I'll be doing a review of the year. It's a chance for some reflection on this rather unusual 2020 pandemic year, and also looking at some of my favourite episodes of the year. So that's it. Make sure you subscribe. Tell someone about this if you've enjoyed this show. And otherwise, have a fantastic week. And all that remains is to cue the moo.